Every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
Are you a fan of rock and roll? Does it get your feet tapping and your hands clapping? Then be sure to check out Crip Rick's Rock and Roll Hour every Friday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern and Standard Time on Studio B right here at revolutionradio.com, where we get down and talk all things rock.
This is the People's War. It is our war. May God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. You've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the leaders, upon all the apparatus. That's to make it stop. That's to make it run it, go on it. And unless you're saying the machine isn't working at all.
Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Revolution Radio.
Tune into Revolution Rango. Studio A for Omnium Gatherum, a kaleidoscope of discussion. Thursdays at 4 p.m. and Saturdays at 10 p.m. Only at Revolution Radio. Tune into Revolution Radio, Studio A for Omnium Gatherum, a kaleidoscope of discussion. Thursdays at 4 p.m. and Saturdays at 10 p.m. Only at Revolution Radio.
The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. Travel without
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. And in here, the results are always positive. Now, we might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us as we endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution. And we are streaming to you live with our good friends at Revolution Radio on freedomslips.org, the #1 listener-supported network in the entire country. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms, all at the same time live. Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, X, DLive, Foxhole, and Truth Refugee. Everywhere where good podcasting can be found live and free. And by the way, it's archived for free at all those locations. No paywall ever here at America Free Radio. So, wow, what is our chat room doing? It's been going and going and going for the last 5 minutes. Who was the first in tonight? I always like to find out who that is. Oh, Tatanka Dave was the first one in. And Dave's Waffle House over there on YouTube. Margaret Frisch, also on YouTube. Boy Dogs 2 is here. Woof woof to you too. Got a good story tonight for you. Let's see. Margaret Bosch Burning, Amity 223, Della Meow. Big D is here. Yeah, this is good. K.O. Kelly's here. This is my story from Rumble. That's good. Glad to have you out there. Let's see. Spartan Roger. And Coates. Very good, very good. Nice rowdy group tonight, and I'm sure your comments will do it justice. And who do we have in Foxhole? We have Pool Dude is here right now. There'll be more. There will be more. So it's been windy here today, but it was really, really pleasant. I mean, my AccuWindow forecast was premium bike weather. Lots of bikes going to be out this weekend if it doesn't rain all weekend. I understand it's windy out there in New Mexico. Not much to slow the wind down out there. March is coming. And you know how March does. It comes in like a lion as the weather blows around. So I'm going to start off with this story because it's kind of dear to my heart. Many of you may have not heard it unless you were listening last night on our Toxically Masculine Tuesday program. The dog days are over, at least in Morocco. Aminal. I remember when I was a little kid. Aminal rights groups have expressed outrage over Morocco's killing of millions of stray dogs, so-called stray dogs, ahead of the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Organizations such as the International Animal Welfare and Protection Coalition and PETA have criticized Moroccan officials for calling the population of roughly 3 million dogs. Of course, they're really not doing anything about it. They're not spending any money. They're just expressing outrage. Muslims hate dogs, and millions of them will be flooding into town to fleece money from tourists all over the world, and the dogs must go. The animal rights organizations have reportedly released images and testimony claiming that Moroccan officials are resorting to using harsh methods, such as clamping dogs by the neck, loading them onto trucks, and poisoning or shooting them before disposing of their bodies. And they are not doing this humanely. They like torturing the dogs. A 91-page dossier to FIFA from the animal rights organizations There were photographs documenting poisonings for starvation and the shooting of dogs. The organization has claimed that after Morocco was confirmed to be one of the countries hosting the 2030 FIFA World Cup, the killing of stray dogs has increased dramatically. After the World Cup confirmation, the extermination of the dogs has increased dramatically. The animal rights organization stated, adding that fear is that Morocco will proceed to kill millions of dogs, according to the outlet. Katie Cryer, a spokesman for PETA, accused Moroccan officials of not attempting to hide the fact that dogs are being poisoned, shot, and burned alive to clean up for the 2030 World Cup. PETA entities worldwide have been protesting FIFA events, and tens of thousands of PETA members and supporters have sent urgent appeals calling on FIFA to withdraw Morocco's right to co-host the tournament unless it stops the dog slaughter. I doubt that's going to happen. While Moroccan officials have been criticized, spokesperson for FIFA told the outlet that during its bid for the 2030 FIFA World Cup, Morocco emphasized its commitment to animal welfare. The spokesperson added that FIFA was following up with its local counterparts with the aim of ensuring commitments are upheld. The Moroccan embassy in London has also reportedly claimed there is no cull of stray dogs. Whatever. So, and we've had a lot of public statements on social media from Muslims all over the world, how they hate dogs, and the dogs should be exterminated completely. And they also have been mentioning how women are also animals created for the benefit of man. They're just like an ox, just like a goat, just like a dog. They're the property of men. They're to be used by men. They're to be terminated by men. They're to be covered up and owned by men. That is the Muslim way. I don't know a lot of women that really like that idea. I'm sure there are some because Muslims do breed. I have trouble with that whole ideology. I don't think, Rosebud, I don't think they eat dogs. They really think dogs are unclean. I think they would abuse a dog. They would love to torture a dog, but I don't think they would ever eat a dog. Just like they wouldn't eat a pig. So I don't like the story. I think there's a lot of truth to the story. I have business associates who travel to Morocco from time to time. It's not a place I ever want to go, but it's a place that you have to go to do business in that region. So it doesn't matter if you're Russian or Kazakhstani or European. Morocco is on the south side of the Mediterranean, and lots of business is done there. All right. Who has seen the pictures out of New York with all the poop all over the streets? You know, I've traveled the East, Nepal, areas like this, and Tibet. And I can tell you that you have 400 million people in India who literally poop in the streets. If you go to those towns over there, there's a ditch down the middle of the street. It's usually about 8 to 12 inches wide and about a foot deep. And this is the sewer. It's an open ditch. Now, people may be decent, private, pooping and peeing in their house in a bucket, and then they will take the bucket out and dump it in the ditch. And during the dry months, that ditch has an odor about it that will just, you'll never get it out of your memory. You'll never get it out of your memory. And you think, wow, these are really great tourist areas, and they look great on TV. They look great with Brad Pitt or, different people walking around and filming, you don't smell the smell. Once you get that smell in your nostrils, you'll never get it out. The ditches are cleaned out periodically by rain. That's how the ditches are cleaned out. And the ditches flow into, at least the areas that I used to travel, in the Ganges. The ditches flow into the Ganges, which is a river that everybody gets their water from. In Egypt, it's the irrigation ditches around Cairo. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, the odor that comes from these bodies of water. And this is where people get their drinking water, their bathing water, the water for their gardens, everything. And when the floods come, when the rain comes and it rains for 3 weeks in a row, all the ditches clean out. All this stuff is washed down into the Ganges, unfiltered, all the bacteria. This is why you have cholera in these areas. It's why you have disease in these areas. Well, that what used to be Kathmandu, that used to be, Tibet. It used to be cities along the border between Tibet and Nepal, which I crossed so many times I ran out of visa pictures. I'll tell you that. I had to borrow a visa picture from a friend of mine who had a envelope with a bunch of old guys in it. They didn't look anything like me. But my good friend Gary said, well, look, just take one of these pictures in a Kit Kat bar in your passport, give it, and you'll be able to go right through the border. And I did. We all looked the same to them, he said. Well, whatever. Anyway, gave that visa picture, got my passport stamped, and cost me a Kit Kat bar to get through the border. That's fine. The point is that this is the way that third world has been running for thousands of years. It's not the way New York runs. New York has sewers. New York has bathrooms. New York has the finest restaurants in the world, some of them. But now the streets are covered in human crap. And Mamdani is allowing it to happen. And the trash is stacked 6 feet high on both sides of the curb all through the city. Because Mamdani is raiding the rainy day fund, the emergency fund, every dime he can get his hands on in order to buy more votes. And New York is going to collapse. New York is now a third world country, just like Kathmandu, just like some of the cities and towns that are over there in Nepal. They can't help it because they don't have the means to build a sewage treatment plant and bury pipes and engineer all of that and create a water treatment plant, a waste treatment plant. They don't have that. New York does. New York is a metropolitan city of 11 million people. But now it's Nepal, with the streets and sidewalks covered in human crap. Oh, you think Mamdani will be short-lived? You don't think he's going to last long in New York? You don't think he has a lot of popular support in New York? Yeah. Right, Tatanka Dave. He says, Mamdani is doing something about the homeless. He's let 18 human beings die from the cold. That happens every year in New York. Every year. You can go to Asheville, North Carolina. Have you ever been to Asheville, North Carolina? Oh, such a eclectic, open, loving city. Did you know in Asheville there's no public access to bathrooms? If you come to Asheville to visit and you're not eating in a restaurant or staying in a hotel, there's no using the bathroom for you. There's no public restrooms in Asheville, North Carolina. It's one step away from being Nepal. It's that bad. Of course, you say, well, why did they do that? Why did they do that? It's such a clean area. The reason they did it is because the heavily populated gay community in Asheville, they were using the bathrooms to have sex in. And it got so bad at the hotels and the restaurants, it got so bad that they just had to have a citywide policy, no public use of the restrooms. Unless you're actually sitting down in that restaurant having something to eat, or you're checked into that hotel, there is no using the restroom in that facility. That's why. That's why. It's not because their sewage system can't handle it. It's not because they're not, hospitable to visitors that come to Asheville who might be visiting Biltmore or whatever. It's because of the gays. The gays have so much anonymous sex in that city that they just can't let them use the restrooms. It's a big mess, a big mess. And it's hard to keep the hygiene and the place clean enough to, for the public to use. Just thought you should know, if you ever have a chance to go there, make sure that you go before you go. Also, what's happening in New York City, the residents are not too happy. They're not too happy because at 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning, the call to prayer, the Islamic call to prayer, blares over loudspeakers and wakes people up, wakes Christians up, wakes Jews up, wakes people up that haven't been to church in their life. Weeks ago, New York City residents, including large populations of immigrants, elected a communist Muslim known as Mamdani as the new city mayor. He immediately praised his own religion as the one true faith, and now there are being broadcast into the streets in multiple locations the Islamic call to prayer up to 5 times a day. Actor James Woods, you know who he is, right? Whose commentary attracts as much attention these days as other life accomplishments, pointed out. Well, that didn't take long. Comments that were posted after the Gateway Pundit they released a report on the Islamic agenda, including "We told you so," and "This is what you asked for," and public stonings, and Obama called it a beautiful thing. But a number of videos were posted with comments showing the shock of New Yorkers at the development. Isn't this what we warned New York citizens about for months before Mamdani was elected? Listen to the sound being heard in the New York streets. Isn't this the call to prayer, just as you would hear in the Middle East? First time I ever heard it, I was in Cairo. I was in Aswan. Yes, near the Aswan Dam. We were going to visit it the next day. 5 o'clock in the morning came around, and of course your body clock's all screwed up, so you can't really sleep when it's nighttime over there because your body clock's messed up through jet lag. So you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, out on the balcony, maybe having a cigar or whatever, coffee. And here comes the call to prayer. At first I thought, well, that's kind of pretty, just nice. But over the weeks that I stayed there, it got kind of annoying. First, the horrors of 9/11, now the call to prayer echoing across New York streets 5 times a day. This is not assimilation, people. It's domination. Complaints fall on deaf ears while our city changes forever. New York has been conquered. This is only the beginning. Residents in this area of Manhattan, New York, are completely shocked to hear an Islamic call to prayer blasted on high-volume speakers as they walk down the street. I never thought in my life I'd hear this in the middle of New York. We cannot let America fall to Islam like the UK. In New York, you can now hear the Muslim call to prayer blasted throughout multiple cities 5 times a day, even broadcasting the phrase, Allahu Akbar. This must be addressed immediately. Mass deportations are the answer. Islamic prayer is now being broadcast in the streets of New York 5 times a day. With Mamdani as mayor, residents are reporting hearing the Islamic call to prayer on the streets. Commentator Amy Meck explained online, "My Lord, America, the conquest we've warned about is exploding now. The Adhan isn't a beautiful call to prayer. It is a militant declaration. Allahu Akbar which means Allah is greater than your gods. There is no God but Allah. Blared 5 times a day from the loudspeakers, 5 a.m. wake-ups included. It's forced submission on non-Muslims. Pure civilizational jihad straight from the Muslim Brotherhood playbook. And everybody knows that Muslim Brotherhood is gay. All the men are homosexuals. They hate women. They can't stand to look at women. It bothers them severely to see a woman who is exposing any part of her body, including her hair. They would rather have sex with 10-year-old boys and animals than a woman. They're intimidated by women. They beat women, and they kill women and abuse women. But somehow, the white liberal women in this country are standing behind them. It's nonsense to me. It actually blows my mind. Reports confirmed that there already are complaints from residents of Astoria, Brooklyn, Manhattan about the offensive noise from the Islamic broadcasts. The agenda, actually, reports confirm, began under former Mayor Eric Adams in 2023, who allowed some calls to prayer broadcast. Under Mamdani, that apparently has been expanded and supercharged. There already was one suggestion for responding: do as the Scottish have done, playing bagpipes during the Muslim call to prayer. The Scottish are playing bagpipes during the prayer to drown out the speakers. One international organization that promotes itself as an answer to all business needs says the increase in broadcasts has sparked concern and frustration among many New Yorkers. Complaints are mounting, particularly in areas with large Muslim populations like Astoria, Brooklyn, Manhattan. I've been to Manhattan a bunch of times. I've been to Brooklyn a couple times. It is American. It's as American as it gets, going back over 200 years. And I just don't see New Yorkers bending to this. But evidently they have. The report explained how the Islamic statements are interpreted by some as declarations of dominance and a rejection of other beliefs. We all know what the first commandment is, right? You do, right? You know what the first commandment of the 10 commandments is? You want me to refresh your memory? The first commandment that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai to the people. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's the first commandment. The growing frequency of these broadcasts is described by some as a form of civilizational jihad, a deliberate attempt to reshape the cultural landscape of the city. This perspective views the situation as a calculated move rooted in a specific ideological agenda, and they have used it everywhere, all over the world, for hundreds of years. It's how they conquer nations. Well, I don't know. I'm with you on it. And you could say people with low IQ, to talk to Dave, don't respect their communities, but not everybody in New York is stupid like that. They're not. I've been there. I've done business there. I could just tell you there are a lot of smart people in New York, a lot of metropolitan people in New York. And I don't see New Yorkers typically as a cheek-turning people. If you smack them on the side of the face, they're not going to turn the other cheek to you. They're going to knock your teeth out. But I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing that kind of resistance. Oh, yes, K.O. Kelly, the story about they've been dumping raw sewage into the Potomac since they invented pipes. But why are they still doing it? With all of the environmentalists out there, with all of the EPA out there, both state and federal, why are they being allowed to dump raw sewage into the Potomac? It's a great question for which no one has an answer. Yeah, we'll shock you in. Thank goodness the Indian Ocean is deep, right? Because that's where it all goes. If we talk about getting control of pollution in the oceans, And they come down on the United States and make us pay, but we don't dump anything in the oceans. All of our beaches are pretty much clear and clean, unless we're talking about the raw sewage coming up from Tijuana that seems to float north up to San Diego. It's horrible. Or, some of the other super fun sites that we've had, but we've cleaned them up. But the third world country, India and Asia, dumping everything they have into the rivers, which goes out to sea. And you look at the ocean, you look at the reefs and the bottom of the sea and the sea life, how it's affected by this massive, massive avalanche of human waste that goes into the sea. It is not someplace you want to swim. It's not someplace you want to even touch the water. What were you saying, Rose Buddage, about Paris? I've never been to Paris. I can't speak from experience from Paris. I've been to Amsterdam, and it's pretty clean. People are pretty conscious about their city. A lot of people ride bikes, but that's because at the time I was there, gas was $11.50 a gallon. Can you imagine that? $11.50 a gallon? Yeah, it's pretty expensive. I had a turbo Peugeot. That was a car I had when I was there. And it was great on fuel, but it was diesel. So it took diesel fuel. But I filled it up. Once a week. And it didn't have a big tank, but it was like $110 to fill that car up. Unbelievable how expensive fuel is there. Oh, they make it hurt. People don't just drive around for pleasure in Europe, except for the Dutch. The Dutch travel everywhere. It's crazy to see. They camper trailers. It's like, like Mormons. I don't know what. They travel everywhere. All right, let's check Foxhole really quick. It should have more people in there. Plant's in there. Plant 22's in there. Kind of light over there at Pilled. What's going on, guys? You guys not advertising or something? I mean, America Free Radio is on the air. Pilled should be filling up. All right, let's talk about pilots. You recall United Airlines and some of the other airlines were prioritizing people of color and women. They wanted to put them in the cockpit. It didn't matter what their qualifications were, even if it was anywhere close. They had 1 year of seniority. Let's put them in there. We're not looking for the best pilot. We're looking for the no pilot is white. Let's put it that way. And they were bragging about that. Their goal was to get to 50%. Even though minorities only make up 12% of the population, they wanted 50% of their pilots to be people of color and even women. And of course, we had a couple of planes crash with all women crews. Well, the federal government has ordered now, finally, after lots of pressure from newscasters like me, ordered that airlines must hire their pilots based on merit, their experience, knowledge, and ability to fly the airplanes, and not sex, and not skin color, and not ideology. A commentator at Red State praised the move, explaining passengers don't want a diversity hire at the yoke of that airplane. We want the best pilot money can buy, regardless of skin tone or plumbing. Now, the Department of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administration are taking steps to ensure that we get just that. Ensuring the highest safety standards in aviation, new directives require airlines to certify pilots based solely on merit. And it doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter what sex they are, solely on merit. ALPA standards, by our uncompromising training standards, qualification is all that matters. The Department of Transportation has issued a new mandatory regulation for the airlines. Pilots must be hired on the basis of merit. They must have sufficient cognitive aptitude, technical knowledge, flight experience, or they cannot be hired. Now, obviously, they have to gain experience somewhere. So normally what happens in the not major airlines, but even in the major airlines, is the regional. First, they start with the 19-seater, then the 50-seater, then the 70-seater, but these are regional turboprops and jets. These are the ones where you build your flight experience, work your way up to larger iron like a 737, start building experience in a 737, and then start qualifying for bigger aircraft, the big Airbuses and so forth. That's where the pilots come from for the 747s and the 777s and the 767s. They come from those ranks. Those guys have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hours of flight experience. They've been in the simulator for 1,000 hours. And in the simulator, it's not straight and level flight. Okay, they throw stuff at you, storms and mechanical problems and engine outages and whiteouts and heavy rain all the way to the ground, dark, fog, all kinds of stuff. They train you to deal with these situations and not just, straight and level flight on a clear and sunny day. Despite the disparity, major airlines are continuing to hire on the basis of identity rather than merit. United is one of them. I never book on United if I can help it. Unless that United is the only airline that goes to that city, I'll fly United. But otherwise, no, I won't fly. I'll fly American. I'll fly even Alaska, although Alaska is a little bit woke too. This announcement is part of the war on diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda hires by the administration of President Trump. It was the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who I think the world of. I think he's a very down-to-earth, straight shooter. He said the airlines that don't formally commit to merit-based hiring will be subjected to FAA investigation. Nobody wants that. They'll come around. When families board the aircraft, they should fly with confidence, knowing the pilot behind the controls is the best of the best. The American people don't care what their pilot looks like or their gender. They just care that they are the most qualified man or woman for the job. Safety drives everything we do, and this common sense measure will increase transparency between passengers and the airlines. The FAA under President Trump has mocked the practices of Joe Biden while he was in the White House, saying the agency at that time adopted absurd processes. It got people killed. The report said the president targeted DEI at the FAA, in particular following a tragic plane crash in the nation's capital last year that saw a passenger plane collide with a military helicopter over the Potomac River. A lot of this had to do with the way those patterns were run, because the approach pattern of the jets was also the travel pattern of the helicopters along the north side of the Potomac. They were supposed to stay in their own space. It is a busy area. There are people that travel by helicopter rather than drive by car. They're VIPs that fly what are called the gold tops. These are helicopters that will move people from, say, the Pentagon over to other organizations, other areas, or even the major airport by helicopter along the Potomac River. But they're supposed to fly with a certain ceiling along a certain path. And it takes an experienced pilot to be able to hold that helicopter in that path in the night and the day. There have been tons of close calls of jets approaching when they turned the airport to approach from that way along the Potomac River. I mean, if you've ever flown into DC, you know what I'm talking about. When you're flying in there, you come in at 10,000 feet, you drop to 5,000 feet, you drop to 2,000 feet, and that's where you hold on final approach. 2,000 feet and 200 feet will put you pretty close in proximity to something like a helicopter, especially if it's not being flown right. And they have a lot of close calls. And the other thing that I will talk about as far as the transportation in this country are the foreign-born, illiterate, and I don't mean they can't read in their own language, but they can't read or write English. Foreign-born truck drivers. Now, when I was growing up, I never had any fear of riding or driving next to a semi. I knew that the guy driving that truck was a professional. He knew how to handle a truck. He was trained. He looked out all his mirrors. As long as you stayed in the mirrors, he didn't bother you. Didn't try to run over you. Didn't miss his brakes or his turn off or any of that stuff. But the last few years, with people overstaying their visas and coming in this country and going to counterfeit truck driver training facilities, we increasingly have semis that are being operated on America's highways by people that are not qualified. They can't read or write English. They can't read the road signs. They don't really know how to drive the truck in heavy traffic. And people are dying every single day. We had a 63-year-old man die just yesterday from another foreign-born driver. And of course, we hear the fake stream news. We used to call them the mainstream news, but they're not the mainstream news anymore. We are the mainstream news. They're the fake stream news. They're the propagandists. They cover up the identity of the driver and the nationality of the driver as long as they can, because it doesn't fit their narrative. And almost 100% of the time when we have these accidents, trucks running red lights, trucks changing lanes and smashing into cars, trucks making U-turns where they're not supposed to make U-turns, trucks not being in proper repair or not being operated correctly, almost 100% of the time, it is these foreign-born drivers that are trained by counterfeit or foreign-owned truck driving training schools. And it's going to come to an end. The DOT is really hot and heavy on this, but you don't have any idea how big a problem this is. Anybody have any idea how many trucks there are on the road? I know. It makes up about half the vehicles around Charlotte. I mean, if you get out there on the highway, you're going to see cars for sure, but you're going to see trucks. About every fourth, fifth vehicle is a heavy truck in America, because that's the way stuff moves. That's the way stuff gets from the manufacturer to the distributor, from the distributor to the retailer. It goes by truck. So how many drivers are there out there? I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. I bet it's a lot, because it pays pretty well. But now we have to question. Now we don't ride next to pickups. We don't draft a pickup truck if you're on a motorcycle and it's cold and you want to get in behind that trailer to block the cold and suck up close to them so you can let the truck block most of the wind. We don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. And when we go to pass the truck, we do it quickly. We get by them. We don't dilly-dally along the side of it, because we know that the person driving that truck is probably not a professional. Not a trained professional. Whether you're in your car or you're in the minivan with the kids, or whether you're riding a motorcycle, steer clear of the truck drivers in this country right now until the DOT gets a handle on this. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they will. The chat room is right on top of it, but let me tell you, the Democrats are doing everything they can do to make Trump's presidency 2 years. 2 years long. If the Democrats take the House, that's the end of President Trump's presidency. That's the end. None of the laws that we want to have passed will pass. None of the things that we think the Congress should be doing will be done. They will focus 100% of their time on removing President Trump and his cabinet from office. All right, let's change tracks just a little bit. Balance this out. Hold on a second here. My son says, how can you drink that unflavored soda? Well, it's kind of flavored. I mean, this is just plain old Perrier, but all those artificial colors and sugar and caffeine and everything that's in the other drinks, it's not good for you. Once you reach a certain age, you shouldn't be pouring that stuff down your neck. But Perrier is just water. It's just soda water. And actually, tastes pretty good. So let's talk a little bit about fasting. My gosh, you guys have been exposed to so much stuff on the internet. Fast for these many days. What's your body type? Here's your fasting schedule, blah, 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 all that stuff. And you really don't know if any of it holds water or if the stories are nothing more than anecdotes. But if you ever worry that skipping breakfast might leave you foggy at work, I can tell you, I used to go to work every morning. I would skip breakfast. I would just have coffee, drive my 40 minutes to work or whatever, work all day long. I would have lunch either at the plant in the cafeteria or take my lunch. And then I'd have a rather small dinner because I don't want to go to bed all bloated and, filled up to my neck with food. But over the years, I started becoming a breakfast person. I would eat a healthy breakfast and then almost no lunch, maybe eat at 3:30 in the afternoon. And that was it for me because I wasn't doing a lot of physical labor. Of course, when I was building this house that I'm in right now, I was doing a lot of physical labor. So you have to eat. But that intermittent fasting often made me irritable because my blood sugar would drop. I'd get distracted. I was less productive. I found myself sitting around a lot, grabbing a fast break or a Snickers bar in the afternoon to have enough sugar in my system to get through the workday. Snack food ads warn us all the time, you're not you when you're hungry. You remember the Snickers ads with Betty White? Oh, they were so hilarious. It reinforced a common belief that eating is essential to keep your brains sharp. Now, that message is kind of woven into our culture, right? It's the American way. Just look at the wrappers on your floorboard of your car. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We're told constant fueling is the secret to stay alert and efficient. And yet, time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting have become hugely popular wellness practices, especially over the last decade. Millions of people do it, some of them very religiously, and they do it for long-term benefits, from weight management to improved metabolic health. Maybe even their immune system is jacked up a little bit when you're fasting. And it raises a pressing question. Can we reap the health rewards of fasting without sacrificing our mental edge? I've done it. I can tell you it's not as easy as it looks. There are lots of studies that have been done to test cognitive performance. And of course, we asked the question in the first place, why fast? Fasting. If you're going to fast and pray, I can see that because you're kind of lowering your spiritual interference from food instead of your body all jacked all over the place from trying to digest food. The metabolism comes down to a lower spot. You rely on the fat in your system through a process called ketosis. And the spirit is kind of quickened in you. When you want to pray, you're more sensitive to that. And you can get answers and you can affect good to others. But that's once a week, once a month, right? Fasting isn't just a trendy diet hack in this case. It taps into a biological system honed over millennia to help humans cope with scarcity. We don't have a lot of scarcity in the United States. Not many people go hungry in this country. I mean, you can make the case that maybe there are hungry children in this country. But there are not starving children, not like there are in the third world where they haven't eaten a decent meal in a month. There are too many systems, too many programs. If they're in school, they eat. If they're, at all connected to the welfare systems in this country, from SNAP to EBT, they eat, okay? When we eat regularly, the brain runs mostly on glucose. That's within the system. That's what we run on. We run on the sugar. It's stored in the body as glycogen, but after about 12 hours without food, those glycogen stores dwindle out. We burn it all up. Well, the body doesn't just stop. I mean, sometimes it does. You crash and You think, oh my God, I got to sit down. I got to take a nap. But at that point, the body performs a very clever metabolic switch, okay? It begins to break down fat into ketone bodies. For example, acetoacetate and beta-hydroxybutyrate, which provides an alternative fuel source. It takes some training to do. Your body just doesn't automatically switch over to this ketone manufacturing system. Going into ketosis or a type of ketone diet takes training and discipline, and it takes a while for it to kick in. This metabolic flexibility, though, once crucial for our ancestors' survival, is now being linked to a host of health benefits. Time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting have become hugely popular wellness practices over the past decade. What do I mean by time-restrictive eating? It means when you get home from work, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever, don't sit down or grab the recliner and start eating. And I don't mean sitting down and having a meal like a bologna sandwich or something like that. I mean you start eating. The Cheez-Its, the popcorn, the chips, the drinks, the dip, and it goes on and on and on. And you eat for 3 or 4 hours. That's not time-restrictive eating. Time-restrictive eating is maybe not exactly scheduled, but it means sit down and eat for 15 minutes and that's it, you're done. If you eat too fast, and believe me, I know some people, now they say, oh, it's because I was in the Army. That's bullshit. When you're in the Army, you're in the Army. When you're out of the Army, those habits are gone, baby. You can't blame your whole life of shoving food down your neck so fast you can't even taste it on the Army. This becomes a method of eating that is dangerous, and here's why. Because the body has something called the apostat. It is the point at which the body says, I'm full. Don't eat anymore. You don't have a need to eat anymore. But we do, because it's there on our plate. And my gosh, we can't let food go uneaten. There are starving kids and wherever, right? When you sit down, you clean your plate, right? Well, yeah. But you got 3,000 calories on your plate. You only need 750, maybe 500. But you sit down and eat the 2,000 anyway because you don't want those beans. You don't want that steak. You don't want that macaroni and cheese to go to waste, right? What are you talking about? 90% of what you eat turns to poop anyway. You should not be afraid to put a limited amount of food on your plate, eat that, and then wait. Because it takes a little time. It takes 10, 15 minutes for that apostat to kick in. If you keep eating before the apostat has a chance to kick in and say, stop eating, you're going to get fat. I don't mean you're going to carry a little overweight. You're going to carry 30, 40, 50, 80 pounds too much weight. You know who I'm talking about? You're out there. You're doing it. You sleep next to your stomach every single night. Don't tell me. I know exactly what you're doing. Stop eating. And switch over from soda to water. Water will help flush the food through you. You can get past the time-restrictive eating, but let's talk a little bit about the intermittent fasting. Because fasting activates what's called autophagy. It's a kind of cellular cleanup, okay? It clears away damaged components and recycles them, a process thought to support healthier aging. It also provides insulin sensitivity. It allows the body to manage blood sugar more effectively and lowering the risk of conditions such as type 2 diabetes, which is when your A1C gets about 11 or 12 or 15 or 18, you're getting very close to type 2 diabetes. When you take your blood sugar, and I don't know how many of you do that, but if you take your blood sugar and it's sitting there after you eat at about 180, 190, you're probably pretty normal. 210, 220, you're probably pretty normal. But it gets to 300, 350, you got a problem. You have too much sugar in your system. Your insulin's not keeping up with it. You're making some, but you have to lower your sugar intake, and that means starches and refined sugar and syrups and stuff like that, sweeteners. You have to lower that in order to let your insulin catch up with it. I'm just saying. And that has to do with insulin sensitivity. And if you really want to knock those A1C numbers down a little bit, you can take Insulis, which is what I do. It goes underneath the tongue. It's a microdose. And what it does, it lowers your A1C. I do it about 3 times a day. It keeps that A1C below 10, and you're in good shape. Beyond that, the metabolic shifts triggered by fasting appear to offer broader protection. Helps reduce the likelihood of developing chronic disease, often associated with overeating. Now, I like to eat, have my whole life, but I'm not overweight in the sense I'm not obese. Okay, I weigh 0.1 metric tons, but I am solid muscle from head to toe. Very little fat on my body, just around the lower part of my belly, underneath my belly button, which is about what most of you carry. But when it expands from that, it goes around to the sides and then around to the back above your ass. And then it starts showing up in your neck and your face. That's when you got a problem. That's when you're packing around too much and the chronic disease follows it. Here's what the data shows. The psychological benefits have made fasting attractive. Okay, it's no longer fringe. But many hesitate to adopt it out of fear their mental performance will plummet without a steady supply of food. Well, it depends on the food, I suppose. They conducted a meta-analysis, a study of studies, looking at all of the available experimental research that compared people's cognitive performance when they were fasting versus when they were not, when they were fed. And the search identified 63 scientific articles representing 71 independent studies with a combined sample of 3,484 participants testing on 222 different measures of cognition. The research spanned nearly 70 years from 1958 to 2025. After pooling the data, the conclusion was absolutely clear. There was no meaningful difference in the cognitive performance between fasted and satiated healthy adults. In fact, I would venture to say that if you go out and you eat a heavy lunch, and then you come in and sit down in a conference room and turn the lights down and you're going to watch a slideshow or a PowerPoint presentation, you will fall asleep. You will not be cognitively alert if you are fed. People perform just as well on cognitive tests, measuring attention, memory, and executive function, whether they had eaten recently or not. But I'm saying you have to be present for everything. And a lot of people are not. They're full of food. I remember I was in a meeting one time in Salt Lake City and everybody was ordering lunch. Somebody was going to go get it. What do you want, Brooks? I said, I want a piece of cherry pie and a large hot coffee. Everybody looked at me like, what the hell? We're all having pastrami sandwiches and Reubens and everything. You're having a piece of pie and coffee? I said, yeah. Watch about 2 o'clock and see who's still awake in this meeting. It worked. We're going to take a quick break. Give me 3 minutes, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But you're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual Creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Condition 1. As we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in, and I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We shall never surrender.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for hanging in there while we took that short break. Now back to America Free Radio with host Brooks Agnew here at Revolution Radio.
All right. Thank you, Revolution Radio, for that fantastic station identification. Listen, if you're out there or you know somebody that's out there that wants to sponsor Revolution Radio, this is the place to be. Now, you hear the ads that are on here, but this for usually programs that are already on Revolution Radio. It's nice that you get to hear the other hosts and get to see what they're representing with their programs. But if you really want to reach a large audience of potentially 4 million listeners, both video and audio only, Revolution Radio is the place to be. I would recommend, I don't care if you're selling furniture or if you're selling computer programs or clothing or whatever, Revolution Radio is the place to be. You think Facebook reaches people? I got news for you. People that are on Facebook are not buyers. They're not there to shop. They're there to get information. People that go to Google, they're there to search. You can buy Google AdWords maybe, but I can tell you I've never had any luck with them. The best way to sell things, and I can tell you as an author of 13 books, I've been writing for a long, long time, the best place to sell is radio. Way better than TV. And you got the advantage of Revolution Radio being both an audio and a visual source. Reach the audience. We're out here. Okay? Come be a sponsor of Revolution Radio. All right, let's talk a little bit about America Free Radio, because we do have some products that I want to share with you. If you scroll down just a little bit on my website that you can see up here, we're going to go to my webpage, my website. So if you're listening by audio, listen closely. It's brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. You will know you're at the right place because it'll say, I'm Brooks Agnew. This is my website. There's my picture. It doesn't get any easier than that. And I don't make it really busy, okay? There's not a whole lot of stuff on here. It's very simple. There are 2 buttons. 2. Okay? Now you can access the menu and read all about me if you want to, but I don't think that's why you're coming here. You know how I know this? Because I have the stats, people. I know what pages you're visiting. It's important to me to monitor that. The first is get my free newsletter. That's important to me because I can send you information twice a week. You can click on it and you can become more informed. If you don't want to click on it, just close it out and send it to trash. That's fine with me too. I'm not going to share your information. I'm going to give you information. The other button is Ivan and Fenben without a prescription. I have to use those code words for obvious reasons, but if you click on this button, it's going to take you to a special page inside my website. It's my health and safety page. It allows you to get ivermectin and fenbendazole for yourself without a prescription. Now, through great expense and great effort and a lot of fingernail biting, we've been able to move our warehouse from Japan to the U.S. This has allowed us to lower the price 8%. So take advantage of that. You will not find these products cheaper anywhere in the world. Okay? Just ask my customers. They'll tell you the same thing. But here's the great advantage of moving this warehouse. It used to take 3 to 4 weeks for us to deliver to you once you make your order. We are now getting that to 3 to 4 days. Now we're waiting for the warehouse to be filled up. Everything's been bought. Everything is on its way. But as you know, the Democrats have shut down DHS, right? All except for ICE. Well, as it turns out, one of the organizations that it has purview over is Customs and Border Protection. So guess what? All of our cases of product are being slow walked through U.S. Customs. Everybody's is. That's the pain that everybody's feeling. But have no fear. We have a 100% delivery performance, 100% after 5 years. And it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Have no fear. Order with confidence. Ivermectin, fenbendazole. And don't forget, if you're using it to battle your own personal diseases, I would pick up this book, Fenbendazole and Ivermectin Protocols, the Practical Handbook. It's the #1 bestseller in its field. I don't make a nickel off of this. I'm just providing you the link because you wouldn't go to Amazon and search it out for yourself. Here is the answer to all your questions. When do I take it? How do I take it? Am I on and I'm off? I mean, what can I treat with it? It's all in this book. And don't forget, you can also pick up True Niagen. I take it every single day, 600 milligrams myself. This I've been taking for 8 years, and I can tell you that it has reverse aged me. From the time I started taking it to now, I have reverse aged backward. My original picture that I had on my website was from the year 2012. That's a while back, right? That's like 11 years ago. Well, 14 years ago. I look older in that picture than I do in my current picture, which was taken in 2024. I'm just saying, I'm living proof that this works. I have thousands of friends that are taking True Niagen. I don't make any money on this at all. They don't give me a benefit whatsoever. I'm sharing it with you so you can get the benefits as well. I use it. Thousands of my friends use it, and they swear by it. Your skin will be smoother. Your eyes will be sharp. Your brain will be sharp. It builds up the mitochondria in your muscles again so that you not just feel younger, you are younger. And we don't really even know where this is going. It's only been out since 2018, but we don't know. People may live to be 120, 130, 140 years old. We just don't age anymore. Take it from me. Use the True Niagen. And don't forget to take your zinc. I use ZMA, which is zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B6 complex. It's a pretty big capsule, but you can swallow it easy enough. And it actually does the fighting of the viruses. It actually does the intra and intercellular work that you want these medicines to do. And don't forget the Insulis I just showed you earlier. This is my little vial. It sits on my desk all the time. I take it about 3 times a day. It keeps those A1C numbers down. That's why it's called Insuless. If you're type 2 diabetic or getting close to it, it's a great deal to have. A lot of people swear by it. Also, and I haven't mentioned this in a while, fluoride-free toothpaste. If you buy your toothpaste from the grocery store, you're not only spending the same amount as you would on this, but you're putting fluoride into your mouth and into your blood system. It's calcifying your pineal gland and keeping your brain from, seeing through the dimensions that you want to see. Don't just take my word for it. Read up on it. Fluoride is no good for you. It's a waste product from the aluminum manufacturing industry. Hey, they had to have some place to put it. So they put it in toothpaste, not Himalaya toothpaste. Himalaya toothpaste does not have fluoride in it. It doesn't have those harsh abrasives, and it keeps your teeth white. I've been using it for a long, long time. I have not put any fluoride in my body. I filter my drinking water, and I use this kind of toothpaste. No fluoride in my body for almost 20 years now. I'm just telling you, this is the way to go. And don't forget about the Blue Boost. Some people are doing the methylene blue. It turns your tongue blue. You can stain your clothes, your carpet. It's awesome stuff, but it has its drawbacks. Blue Boost has none of the drawbacks. You still get the methylene blue, but not the mess, because it's in a vegetarian capsule. Try it. I think you'll like it. I use it. If you need that laser sharpness to get that job done, Blue Boost is the product for you. All right, that's enough. Let's get back to what we were talking about. Let's see here. Okay. Enough selling. A lot of you have heard it before and just page through it and you're done. I don't have commercials all through my presentation on Wednesdays and Sundays here at America Free Radio. Plumber Man's here. That's good. Okay, now we can get down to business. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's called the Potomac right now. Yeah, it's almost as bad as the Hudson, right? All right, let's see here. Okay. I tried to get a shout out over there at Foxhole, But only Plant and Pool Dude are over there. Not many people in Foxhole tonight. I don't know. There must be some competition somewhere. All right. So here's the big story that's going on in Washington right now. One that if you don't do anything about it, I guess I'm okay with it. I would rather you make some phone calls or write some emails. But this is this is an issue of consciousness. I just want you to think about it. Okay. Just take 5 minutes with me and let's think about it. Because that 5 minutes, a couple million people doing this, creates a resonance in the universe, and things do begin to happen. And that is a little historical thing that we've been doing since about 1932 called the filibuster. The filibuster it's not constitutional. It's more of a senatorial rule. It was created by the minority party probably by Republicans, because Democrats have run the Senate for most of this nation's tenure. It's just the way it is. Democrats have run all but about 44 years of our government. It's just the way it is. And the issue is that the minority wanted a way to keep the majority, which was usually the Democrats, from steamrolling its agenda. It wanted some way to slow that down and force them to get 60 votes for cloture to get through, to break the filibuster. Now, in the old days when the filibuster was first started, was it Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Jimmy Stewart, the filibuster was done by one guy standing up and just talking and not yielding. He stood up there for 8, 10, 12, 20 hours. Cory Booker, Ted Cruz, if you know, famous for it. That's called a standing filibuster. And you can have some impact. And you can, the longest filibuster in history was I believe it was 1964. It might have been 1965 when the Democrats filibustered the Civil Rights Act. Yeah, they filibustered the Civil Rights Act. They did not want black people to have equal rights in this country. And they fought it with everything they had using the filibuster. Well, it didn't do any good, and the Civil Rights Act finally passed. Republicans finally passed it. All the Democrats voted against it. All the Republicans voted for it, and it passed. Well, we're at that impasse again. The U.S. House has handed Senate Republicans another reason to bury this crazy thing called the filibuster. No one really knows if it's even effective these days. We haven't had a standing filibuster in a long, long time. We've had a zombie filibuster, which created a 60-vote threshold that has to be reached to do anything, to appoint a judge, to approve a cabinet member, to pass a budget, to pass major legislation. In order to get through the Senate, it doesn't matter what the House does. It doesn't matter what the president wants. In order to get through the Senate, you have to have 60 votes, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I guarantee you, well, you'll see when I get to that part of the story. But on February 11th, the House of Representatives passed what is called the Save America Act. Now, it's gone through some changes, and it's going to go through some changes in the Senate. It's going to go back through reconciliation. It isn't as strong as it once was, which was basically you have to have photo ID that proves you're a U.S. citizen before you vote. Of course, Susan Collins was against it, so we didn't have the votes. But in order to get Susan Collins to come on and vote for it, which got us to 50-50 in the Senate, the approved identification was lowered to a driver's license. Now, the problem with the driver's licenses is states like New Jersey and Colorado and Washington and Illinois issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Oh, they make the excuse, we need to know who we're pulling over, we have to know who is operating the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. Even though they're illegal aliens, they get a driver's license, and with the driver's license, they can vote. If you don't believe me, check out California. California has lots and lots and lots of registered illegals. And how we know this? How do we know this? Because jury duty. Jury duty solicitations are taken from the voter registration rolls. And every year in the state of California, over 180,000, and that's not even scratching the surface, baby, over 180,000 illegals are called for jury duty. Now, they don't show up because they say, look, I'm not a citizen. I can't show up for jury duty. Then why the hell are you on the voter registration rolls? What gives you the right to vote in our elections with just a California driver's license? Well, California law does. And that's the problem. That's why the Save America Act exists. Because we already know that the illegals in this country have swelled the census, which is how we apportion our congressmen, our congressional representation, state by state by state by city by city. It's apportioned by the population through a census that's done every 10 years. And the last census is the one that gives us the 433 representatives that we have in Congress right now. We used to have 435, but California lost two because of the mass migration to other states. The deal is that the illegals are counted on the census. Now, it used to be years ago that as the census taker was asking the questions at the household, they knock on the door. I want to know how many people live in this household, how many men are how many are women, how many are kids. And the next question is, how many are U.S. citizens? Well, they stripped that question, that last question, out of the census because the Democrats don't want to know. All they want to know is how many men, how many women, how many kids in this household. And then what they do is go by that census, by address, and apportion the congressional representation. In other words, how many congressmen are allowed in that state. And this is an issue because now you have illegals on the census, so they're being counted for congressional presence. But then you have a significant portion of those illegals that are voting in the elections. So as it turns out, if we could strip the illegals out of the census, it would lower the House of Representatives by 18 seats. And it is assumed that those 18 seats would all come from the Democrat rolls. The Democrats would be devastated if illegals were not voting in our elections and illegals were not counted in our census. So currently, the way the SAVE Act would work, registered citizens would be unaffected, okay? It wouldn't affect us at all. But new voters must prove U.S. citizenship, and everyone must present a photo ID to vote. The nature of the photo ID is where the argument has been, where the reconciliation is going to take us. Do you need a passport? Do you need a safe ID that was obtained with a certified copy of your birth certificate? Which obviously an illegal will not have that. And if so, if we have proof of citizenship in that ID, then we have now protected our election infrastructure. Obviously, if we do not have irrefutable proof of citizenship in that photo ID, we have not protected our election infrastructure. That's the whole reason why the rule or the law was written. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer of New York calls this Jim Crow 2.0, and I think there's not enough disgust out there to express the way I feel about Chuck Schumer saying this. I mean, how dare Chuck Schumer trivialize the pain of Black Americans who faced segregation, separate but equal bathrooms, whites-only bus benches, and segregated restaurants. When blacks show photo ID at airports today, is that Jim Crow 747? No. Everybody shows ID to get on the plane. And shame on Chuck Schumer for whitewashing this key detail, especially during Black History Month. Jim Crow laws that tormented blacks between the 1870s and 1964, when the Republicans passed the Civil Rights Act, against all Democrats voting against it, were written, enacted, and enforced by Democrats. Why a black person would vote for a Democrat is beyond me. I don't have confusion enough to express at that behavior. According to Pew Research, 76% of blacks and 82% of Hispanics do not agree with Schumer's racial slurs and historical revisionism. Instead, the vast majority of both of these minority groups favor photo ID. So do 83% of Americans, 95% of Republicans, and even 71% of Democrats. This is not a hard subject. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in America. It just is not. It is only controversial to Democrats. Pennsylvania's John Fetterman, notwithstanding, Senate Democrats sooner would gargle with molten glass than mandate photo ID. They hate anything that hinders voter fraud, which they have mastered. To secure honest elections at the midterms and beyond, Republicans must sunset the filibuster. That's the case that I'm making. That's the case everybody should make. If you read my book, Alienated Nation, we talk about this, ending the filibuster, because it is an ancient rule that allows the minority to control the country. Used to be the Republicans in that minority. Now it's the Democrats in that minority. And they're going to try to take control of the House. And if they do, they will end the filibuster and they will smash everything that's been built over the last 7 years. Republicans who cherish the filibuster as an embankment against runaway government would be right. If the Senate still included rational Democrats, such as, I don't know, maybe Joe Lieberman as a reasonable Democrat, maybe New York's Daniel Patrick Moynihan, remember him? Sam Nunn is another Democrat, very reasonable individual. And while in control, they preserved the filibuster, knowing the Republicans would do likewise once they took charge. It protected the minority's ability to stop legislation, judges, cabinet appointments, as I said, slow down the majority from implementing changes. The idea was to create, as Mitch McConnell called it, regular order. Regular order. Allow the minority to stop lawmaking and stop appointments. Otherwise, Obama would have been able to appoint Merrick Garland as the Supreme Court Justice to replace Antonin Scalia. Would have been that easy. Who stopped it? Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell filibustered it and would not allow Obama to make that appointment. We were saved by that. Reasonable Democrats, however, vanished with, the dot matrix printer. They give you a good idea. The point is, this is not your parents' Democrat Party. Today's neo-Marxist Democrats demolished the southern border. They begged at least 8.7 million illegal aliens to invade America and then showered them with freebies and gave them the ability to vote in national elections. Illegals bulked up the census so Democrats can book more congressional seats. Contemporary Democrats flattened tires and smashed windows to prevent ICE from deporting convicted illegal alien drunk drivers and armed robbers and gang members and child rapists and multiple murderers and, of course, terrorists. Relentless far-left Democrats tried to throw Donald Trump off the 2024 ballot and into prison. They sent the FBI to craft files on Latin mass Catholics and accused parents of domestic terrorism when they complained to school boards about grade school gender mania. Modern Democrats love puberty blockers, steer females with penises into women's locker rooms, cheer when girls amputate their breasts, and snore when fraudsters steal $14 billion from Minnesota's economy. Some 2020s Democrats even did cartwheels after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Others campaigned with, and many more elected Jay Jones as Attorney General of Virginia. Never mind that he texted fantasies about firing 2 bullets to the head of all GOP lawmaker Todd Gilbert and his wife Jennifer. Watched their 2 young children die in her arms. Too many Senate Republicans naively believe that these Hamas-hugging degenerates would let this parliamentary procedure derail their agenda. Instead, 46 out of 48 Democrats already voted on January 19, 2022 to junk the filibuster. That was in 2022. Now, former Democrat Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, and unanimous Republicans saved it. The next such Democrat-led vote almost certainly is going to kill the filibuster. So I'm saying that the Republicans should kill it first and do it now. Do it today. A filibuster-free Democrat Senate and the House would make Republican nightmares come true. You want to hear a few of them? Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico would become states. And why not the U.S. Virgin Islands and perhaps other territories? 4, 6, or even more Democrats would join the Senate, likely for good. Ditto their House counterparts. Democrats would swell the Supreme Court and clog it with leftist justices, which would serve for life. Abortion anytime, anywhere, and fully funded by taxpayers. 15 to 20 million illegal aliens and dreamers would score amnesty, citizenship, and voter registration cards. Temporary COVID-era election practices, mass mail-in ballots, Zucker boxes, ballot harvesting, early voting, same-day registration, late ballot deliveries would become permanent. And photo ID, you can forget about that. Amid these insurmountable challenges, Republicans could wave goodbye to the presidency. As I said, you would lose Congress, you would lose the court. The USA would become a workers' paradise sooner than Republicans could say Das Kapital. That America would make Gavin Newsom's California resemble Javier Milei's Argentina. And you know how far away that is right now. The power to bury the filibuster is like a loaded Glock resting on a table. Soft-headed Republicans are not going to touch it. They innocently reckon that if today's Democrats captured the Senate, they would mirror their non-crazy predecessors and leave the Glock alone. But that's not the case. That's not what they're going to do. Republicans must overcome their nostalgia for yesterday's filibuster. When Democrats were liberals and not commies or leftists or jihadists, GOP senators needed to grab that Glock first, retire the filibuster, and then enact America First reforms, all of them. While Republicans still can, you have about 1 year. Their precarious House majority is just a joke. You know that. Sex scandal, special election upset from annihilation, right? Filibuster-free Republicans quickly should adopt. First, the Save America Act. Second, a limited government cure for Obamacare. Third, legislation to turn Trump's executive orders into statute, especially the DOGE discoveries. All of the DOGE guidelines need to be codified to stop the corruption, stop the bleeding of the money. Census rules that count only citizens for reapportionment, the Democrats would lose 18 seats immediately and a 10% flat tax. Or I don't mind the 10% flat tax, although there are a lot of people in this country that don't pay any tax at all, and a 10% tax would just bury them. It would just bury them because that flat tax is on income. I maintain, and I did it in my book, Alienated Nation, that the federal government has no damn business knowing what you earn. Not on interest, not on crypto, not with your job, not with your side jobs or your side hustles. They have no business knowing what you earn. It is none of their business. It is a violation of your privacy. It is forcing you to waive your Fifth Amendment rights, which are guaranteed by the Constitution. And it should not exist. If you do need tax off the commerce in this country, do it with a national sales tax. A national sales tax. Now, what will happen is rich people, wealthy people spend a hell of a lot more money than poor people. So right now, they pay no tax at all because their estates own everything. They hide their income through all kinds of legal loopholes. But see, all those loopholes go away when they spend the money. When they buy that car, when they buy that meal, when they buy that suit or that jewelry or that special watch or a piece of property, they're going to pay the tax. And all the people that are here as tourists, they're going to pay the tax. And all the illegals who are working for cash that don't even show up on the radar screen, they're going to pay the tax. And it will be a windfall for the federal government. It'll be a windfall for the individual wage earner because no one will be taking out of their paycheck anymore. All those federal taxes will now be yours. For me, it would be about $16,000 a year. Well, I could use that money. Let me tell you, I'm not a rich man. It's just the way that I make my money. That's what it costs me. You know, I sell books. And there's no tax taken out on that. At the end of the year, there is. Why? Because I earned the money. And that's not the way it should be. It should be based on the money I spend, not the money I earn. You see what I'm saying? It's a huge philosophical difference. So that's what would happen if the filibuster were ended today. Fragile Republicans argue that if Democrats won a post-filibuster Senate, they would govern like unleashed Rottweilers. They would rip everyone to shreds and never look back. But if Republicans stay tethered to the filibuster, the next Democrat Senate is just going to end it anyway. They've already said that's what they're going to do. Unilateral disarmament ultimately will buy the GOP nothing but a warm, runny feeling of blood running down your body as they cut your throat. The filibuster served a nobler purpose in its day, but Republicans cannot afford to struggle under it now, only to suffer slings and arrows the moment the Democrat radicals reign without its restraints. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They take 3 more Senate seats, and that's it. The filibuster's done. It's done. Republicans immediately should heed what British musician Joe Jackson once sang. When you got the power, then you use it for a while. And that's what should happen. Because at the end of the day, what we're faced with is illegals voting. As Democrats wage war on election integrity, a new poll shows a majority of Americans, about 85% actually, believe non-citizens on their state rolls are a major problem. Last week, the Republican-controlled House passed the SAVE Act, as I said, on mostly a party line vote. Fortunately, the Republicans control Congress slightly, and it passed. I support the Save America Act because I believe in the fundamental principle American citizens should decide American elections, not illegals. Illegals should not be voting in our elections. Most of liberal congressional colleagues hate the bill. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer repeated the Democrats' party insane talking point that the Save America Act is Jim Crow 2.0. He said the bill is dead on arrival in the Senate. It is, as long as the filibuster is intact. The New York Democrat can make such bold assurances because of the feckless Senate's 60-vote filibuster rule. And rhinos like Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, who crave approbation from a corporate media that hates Republicans and collegiality from Senate Democrats incapable of such quaint political niceties. But these elites of the upper house should know what most of their fellow Americans believe. State voter registration lists include non-citizens eligible to vote. We see it. I've already told you about California. There's over 100,000 in Chicago, over 100,000 in Boston, and they're voting in federal elections, and they're protected by their governors. That's going to end with the Save America Act because it will make a federal rule that you cannot vote without a federal ID in a national election. And that's the way it should be. 55% of likely voters believe that non-citizens are illegally registered to vote in the state where they live. 32% say it's very likely. Just a third say that they don't think foreign nationals are on the voter lists. Just a third. They're there, I promise you. An audit last year by the Iowa Secretary of State's office found 35 non-citizens cast votes that were counted in the 2024 presidential election. And the same state saw a congressional incumbent win her 2020 election by a mere 6 votes. Let me tell you, it makes a big difference who is and who isn't voting in elections. States have been engaging in list maintenance efforts and working to remove ineligible voters, but not the Democrat states. There are 21 states that have refused to share their voter information or their SNAP benefit recipients or EBT recipient benefit lists with the Department of, with the USDA. And so the USDA said, fine, you 21 states that are refusing to share your lists, no information, no money. You want to have a SNAP benefit in your state? You want to have an EBT benefit in your state? You pay it. You pay it. And the federal government's not going to pay anything of it because we don't want the illegals on those rolls. Now the Senate can do something about dirty voter calls or voter rolls. The Save America Act also requires states to remove foreign nationals from their databases of registered voters through strengthened list maintenance processes. It has to start. It has to start now in order to be cleaned up in time for 2026. The law is clear in this country. Only American citizens are eligible to vote in federal elections. That's what Susan Collins wrote. In addition to having people provide an ID at the polls, just as they have to before boarding a plane, checking into a hotel, or buying an alcoholic beverage is a simple form that will improve the security of our federal elections and will help give people more confidence in the results. But this is the compromise that got Collins on board, because what she's saying is very similar to what Florida says. Florida says if you have a driver's license, you can vote. That needs to be improved because in Florida, there are hundreds of thousands of illegals who have driver's licenses. And if they present a driver's license, they can vote, but they're illegal. They shouldn't be voting. Well, any efforts to try to clean up those voter rolls are having their effect, especially in the state of Florida. But you have senatorial Democrats who are trying to block this information. They don't want to stop illegals from voting. In fact, they make the claim that there have been dozens and dozens of lawsuits and there's been zero evidence that illegals are voting in elections. That's not true. Yes, there have been lawsuits brought, but most of them have been thrown out of court because the people that are bringing the lawsuits, quote, don't have any standing. I'm doing my air fingers quote for those of you listening by audio. The majority could force Democrats into a so-called talking filibuster if they'll have the balls to do it. And that's the Jimmy Stewart version. You stand up, make your filibuster, you're going to last 12, 18, 20, 25 hours, and then you're going to collapse. And that standing filibuster is over. And when that's over, we vote, and it's 50-50. And that's when J.D. Vance steps in, breaks the tie, and the filibuster is done, or the SAVE Act passes. But John Thune has said, I don't know if we have the time to do that standing filibuster. The zombie filibuster is what we're going under right now, which basically says if you don't have 60 votes, don't bring it to the floor. That's the zombie filibuster. If you don't have 60 votes, don't bring the vote to the floor. Because if you have 55 or 56, it's not going to pass. In fact, there'll be a lot of Democrats that would vote for it so that they could fundraise in their home districts, knowing that it is not 60 and it won't pass. But with a standing filibuster, all you need is 51, which would come with the vice president voting. The play here is to wear the other side out and talk about this for so long and so loud that they finally give up. Or some deal is made to pass a bill containing a proposal that is supported by 80% of Americans. It's about 85% actually. Thomas Lane, who's the director for election integrity at the America First Policy Institute, said this week, invoking cloture would still require the usual 60 votes, but the fatiguing debate would bring some Democrat defectors to break ranks with their party, such as John Fetterman. He's already done it. But getting some senators to agree to put in the time a talking filibuster would require is going to be a tough hill to climb. Except for Cory Booker, he'll be happy to do it. If there's one thing senators don't like to do, it's actual work and be on the floor and do what they're actually elected to do. It kind of brings us to the 17th Amendment. I mentioned it in my book, Alienated Nation, but now it's gaining a lot of momentum in the Convention of States movement. The Convention of States movement has, as part of its platform, I say part of its platform, most of the platform is things like term limits and balanced budget, etc. But one of the pieces is to repeal the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment allowed senators to run for election at large. Before the 17th Amendment, it was state legislatures that elected U.S. senators. They would select people in their state of high moral character who would go to Washington and represent the state legislature in Washington. That's not what happens now. A senator running at large raises money, millions and millions of dollars from all over the world. Special interests, other states, all kinds of industries, APAC, they raise tons of money from all these sources. And when they run, they owe allegiance. And when they win, if they're first termers, they don't have any power at all. They barely sit on any committees. They're backbenchers. They fetch coffee. They sit and they learn for 6 years. And if they can win a second round, if they can run against an opponent in the other party and win again, they get a little bit more clout. When a senator gets to 3 terms, 18 years in, they start to get a little more seniority. They call them ranking members. This is where they become very powerful. They control 1/100th of the United States budget. And the issue is that they don't work for the states anymore. They could care less about the state legislature. They don't even go back to the state. They don't even talk to the governor or the state legislators at all, not state senators, not state representatives. They don't do that conversation anymore because now they're federal. They're a House of Lords. They're the elite, right? And they make their little clubs and their little packs, and they screw each other and deal with each other. And it becomes what you see. It becomes what you see now in Washington. And so repealing the 17th Amendment would stop senators from running for election. There would be no more senators on the ballot that the people would see. They wouldn't ever see a senator's name on a ballot again. There'd be no Cory Booker. There'd be no Susan Collins. There'd be no other senators on there. Instead, those senators would have to answer to the state legislators. And if the state legislators say, hey, now, wait a minute, you've been in Washington for 18 years, and I don't think I've ever spoken to you on the phone. You've never come here and addressed this body. You come here to the state to raise money, but you don't come here to address this body. And so we're going to replace you. We're going to replace you with someone who will represent us in Washington. You're going to represent North Carolina. You're going to represent Tennessee. You're going to represent New Mexico or Washington or Nebraska. You're going to represent us in Washington. And if you start all this backroom embuggery again, we're going to call you home. You're not going to serve a second term. You won't even finish your first term. We're going to call you home and we're going to replace you. That's why repealing the 17th Amendment is so important. I want to see it happen. It's gaining momentum. The more I educate you and you know what the 17th Amendment is for, it can be done. It can be done. And we can take the 17th Amendment out of our Constitution or replace it with term limits of some kind so that senators don't run like John McCain until they die, or Mitch McConnell until they're so infirm that they can't even control their own bowels. It'd be done. Senatorial dynasties would be over. There would be no more deal making like this. There'd be no backroom screwing going on and cover-ups and, corruption. It would all go away. I'm not saying it wouldn't be there on the state level. I'm sure it would, but it wouldn't be 50 states. It wouldn't be 100 senators. It might be 6 or 8 or whatever, but then the other senators will complain and something could be done about it. This is the way we get the integrity back in our government, at least the elected government. The issues we have with the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations are still going to be there. But you can see what Trump has done. Trump has reduced the federal employees by more than any other president in history. We have the smallest federal budget than we've had in 50 years in the United States. And when it comes to where we're spending our money, yes, of course, you have Social Security and Medicare. You have the military. But another big chunk, 23.4% of the federal budget, at least before Trump became president, was federal employees. Federal employees, 650 agencies, departments, bureaus, and administration with millions and millions of employees, all making $100,000 a year plus pensions, was draining our gross domestic product. Instead of the taxes coming in and running government, the taxes were coming in and running pensions. The taxes were coming in and going right back out. They were going to Britain. They were going to pay interest on the debt, which is kind of crazy considering about 70% of our debt is based on fraud. If I were President Trump, I would say we now have evidence that 70% of our debt is actually fraud. We're not going to pay it, and we're going to consider a huge discount. Instead of owing $36, $38, $40 trillion, we're going to owe $2.8 trillion. How about that? Just write it off, banks. Write it off, because it was never legal in the first place. The money that you were sending out there and that politicians were spending on NGOs in foreign countries for God knows what, nothing that had to do with this country, was all fraud. All those daycare centers in Minnesota, fraud. All those autism centers and training centers that don't exist, all fraud. So why would we pay interest on fraud? We can make the case. We can make the case and we can end it. Okay, I get you, Mark. Israel, too. Yes, we send a lot of money to Israel and we pay interest on that debt. Maybe all that needs to be reconsidered as well. And all the money we send to Ukraine and all the money we send to Nigeria and all these other countries. For what? For what? What is it? What good is it doing them? It's doing no good whatsoever. It's only perpetrating war forever. Forever. So good point, Mark Hovsepian. Absolutely. Let's see. One more sweep through. Okay, Rasta is finally here. Oh, you forgot it's Wednesday. Well, you got the archive, Rasta. But we really rely on you being here live and helping us out. We need your comments. We need your brain here. All right, let's say this. If you haven't been to my website lately, one of the things that you need to pay attention to here is, I'm just going to switch over to presentation mode so you can see it. If you go to my website, I only show you these two blue buttons, but if you scroll down just a little bit, you see all these? These are all the programs where I appear. Here are all the places where we appear, but look what else we have. Well, let's go back to here. There's Revolution Radio. There's Awake Nation. That's 8 o'clock Monday mornings. There is Toxically Masculine Tuesday, which was last night at 9 o'clock. Absolutely the best roundtable on the internet, bar none. It's irreverent, yes, but we covered the details. There's also Earth Radio Network. That is Saturday night at 10 p.m. That's also a great roundtable, and we cover the news in depth and a lot of other interesting things. Earth Radio Network. So you have it right there. You got YouTube, you got Rumble. All those archives are held out there. Please take advantage of it. Be part of the America Free Radio community. Share it with your friends. And don't forget about the health and aging products. All right. My name is Brooks Agnew. I've been your host for the past 2 hours here on America Free Radio with the X Squared Radio show that's been around for now 21 years. I appreciate you. I love you more than you know. I wouldn't be here without you. And if you want to reach me, all you have to do is hit the contact form. Okay? I watch it all day long. So if you get there, you're going to reach me. It's a great response form. I never get spammed in it. So if you have questions, ask me, and I will get the answers to you as quickly as I can. I write everybody back. Okay? So go out and look for the good in others and help it to grow a little bit every day. And before long, we can save the planet. That's how it's done. That is how it's done. Now go and do great things, Earth Explorers. We're counting on you. We're counting on you. We'll see you Sunday night right here on America Free Radio. And we'll see you Saturday night on Earth Radio. And Monday morning at 9 o'clock on Awake Nation. Be good. And be good to one another. We'll see you.
listening to Revolution Radio.